Hey everybody, it's your girl not Tawana B with Not Your Normal Conversation, and we are here live with Domingos DaRosa, who's running for Boston City Council at large. Domingos, thank you for joining us. We actually have some. If I can ask everybody to mute their mic, thank you. Um, we're here today. There's actually a lot of people on this platform who are running for other districts, District 7, District 4, and then we have Sharon Hinton here. I brought Domingos back on the show because I want people to ask him the tough questions. The things that you talk about at your kitchen table, at your living room, the things that you hear him say he's going to do, and then you wait until after he said it, and then you go away and say he's not going to do any of that. What has he really done for the community? Is he a community activist? Or is this just about him taking a seat and saying he's going to do these things and then not following through? I find that the biggest problem we have in the Black and brown community is not asking the tough questions, and not really knowing what community is a part of the breakdown. If Domingos is running for Boston City Council at large, what is he going to bring to the table? And he can make many promises, but what is his true purpose in being on the Boston City Council? I think those are the questions that we need to ask him. So everybody feel free to ask Domingos anything that you want. And I'm just here to moderate this meeting to make sure that it doesn't get too crazy, and that people can ask anything they want. So Domingos, thank you for joining me tonight. I appreciate you coming back on. I appreciate all the work that you do in the community. I do follow you. I've been following you since your demonstration at Charlie Baker's house. And I believe that you are a person who will not just stand up for the community, but you work hard for the community. I watched you on Christmas pass out food, pass out clothes. I've had a lot of interaction with you, which I never thought was going to happen, about people that are calling me that are homeless, that need clothes, that need a place to stay. What shelter should I call? He's diabetic. He's going to go into a diabetic coma. What can I do to help this person? Because although I'm formerly incarcerated, I've never been homeless. I don't know what that's like. I know that I want to help people, but sometimes I don't know how. This is a man who's in the community day in and day out. It's not just something that he says, it's a lifestyle. It's the way that he lives. So I'm asking everybody who's on this platform, if you have questions for Domingos, please just raise your hand and then I will allow you to speak, and so that he can answer. No question is out of bounds. Just please no cursing, but Domingos is pretty transparent. So anything that you have to ask him, I think y'all laughing because y'all already know that he's pretty transparent. Um, and let's get this party started. I want people to be able to ask you everything that they can within this hour. And Domingos, why don't you tell us a little bit about your campaign, why you're running, what your purpose is, what your promise is, and then what your purpose is.
Hi, everybody. Thank you again for having me on this great platform and being able to speak to folks directly about some of the things that I see, not only me, but folks, who are around me in the city see as issues for Bostonians and folks who come in and out of our city.
Right.
My campaign is the people's campaign. It's bringing the voice to the table that's been missing for years on end. We always hear folks say, "Hey, I want to speak for the voiceless." Everyone has a voice.
Right.
The issue is, are people hearing us? And I think that's what I'm looking forward to bring to that space, is actual ears to hear. We hear that all the time. I'm gonna listen. But let's put those suggestions to action. Once you gathered all that information, what are you going to do with it?
Right.
My campaign, again, it's for my community. It's for the people who live in Boston with me, who sees the issues that we continue to see in BPS, BPD, Boston Fire Department,
Right.
within City Hall,
Right.
as an umbrella that covers everything from employment, housing, education, transportation, public safety. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. These are compounding issues. That, by the time we deal with one, there's 150 that just arises.
Right.
We have new issues now with traffic in Boston because bike lanes were inserted. The city gave some input, the community gave some input, but there was no real dialect going across the table on suggestions that we want, along with what the city wants to do. So again, this campaign is for the people. We're asking for volunteers. We're asking for donations. We're asking for support because we want you to be a part of this. We don't want you just to door knock. We want you to be a part of something where you're actually putting in some of your input, and we'll use it.
Right.
We'll go out there and use what your inputs are versus just having you be a foot soldier.
Right. So you can unmute yourself. Go ahead, Mr. Thomas.
Triggers not trade. Triggers not trade, right?
Okay.
I don't have to ask candidate Domingo DaRosa any questions, but I have some comments
Sure, go ahead.
to what he's saying.
Okay.
I'm about the trades and 18 plus billion in new construction. Before then, it was the big dig.
Right.
By supporting a candidate and having a person like Domingo DaRosa in the city council chambers, know and I believe, but more so I know, he would be an individual that will stand up and fight for everyone to have an equal opportunity, especially when you have Boston 18 billion plus in new construction. I would be an individual that will stand up there, even if he's only elected for one term. But I know that one term, he would make it count, and he would stand up and go against the status quo and fight for what's right is right.
Right.
Transparency and inclusiveness. I know he would be a person. I also know he would be a person that would not hesitate to speak on things like the abuse of what has been happening on our streets with the needles.
Right.
These young kids and these babies are being exposed and getting so close to being contaminated and exposed to. I also know that he will also stand there and address, like he was saying, public safety.
Right.
And how you can go. I was just in Brookline today and noticed that they expanded the streets over there, but in our streets that's more dense, they shrank our streets. And that to me is a problem because it creates more havoc. But I know he would be one of those people, Domingo DaRosa, City Council at Large, will be that person who would not be afraid to really stand up and say, hey, this is wrong.
Right.
This is happening here. Why aren't we getting the same treatment? Why aren't we being treated the same when we vote, when we pay taxes?
Right.
These are the things that I know that this man, Domingo DaRosa, for City Council at Large, will stand for, will speak for, and many more. Also, for good health care. I know he will fight for everyone within Massachusetts.
Right.
It's Dorchester, Roxbury, and Mattapan. I know he believes in fairness. I know he believes that we deserve better, deserve more. I know he believes that, and I know he will fight for it. And that's my 2 little cents that I wanted to add.
Well, since you added your 2 little cents, Mr. Thomas, I'm going to keep you back on the hot seat because my job at Not Your Normal Conversation, so I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself. Sometimes I play the devil's advocate. Now, just so you know, Domingos is like a brother to me, but I also am a part of the community. So what do you say to the people that thinks that Domingos is way too aggressive?
Those are people who are comfortable and they feel threatened or that he's trying to take something away from that they're entitled to. But I will answer for him. He's not aggressive enough because that's right. That's right.
Woo-wee!
It's not your normal conversation.
Jacob,
so listen, I'm being real. I understand the brother is being a diplomat, but I know within him, I've seen within him that he's sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Right.
Like the rest of us, he's a voice for the voiceless. So he does not have a problem. You see, I'm a pit bull too, and he would tell you I'm old.
Yeah.
Pit bull.
There's people on the live that know you. They're shouting you out, just so you know.
Tell them thank you.
Stacey
That's why
K.
you see
Borden,
the trades, not triggers. That's
right. K. Borden is saying that you're the man. So
thank you.
Yes, and I know Stacey very well, and she's very much a part of the community. Now I see that Jacob has his hand raised. Jacob, can you come off of mute and you ask a question?
Before we jump on to Jacob, can I just
Sure.
add to what T. Michael Thomas has said?
Of course you can.
Founder of the Poor People's Campaign. I'm a Madison Park alumni.
Yes.
I wish I had more time there. Like if I
Right.
can go back to 1992 and I had someone who was actually truly advocating for the school and advising me of what I could be and can be because of the opportunities presented
Right.
at the school. So let's talk about the $2.2 billion in city contracts. That 1.2% went to black businesses, black and brown businesses in the 5-year span.
Right.
You're looking at a little less than $4 million. So let's talk about a city ordinance, something that I would be able to work on.
Right.
City ordinance says that 51% goes to Bostonian, 40% to black and browns, 12% women.
Mm-hmm.
So if we take 2.2 billion and cut it in half,
right,
that's 1.1 billion dollars for blacks and browns to earn 1.2%. This is not new.
right,
This is not something that just poof out of the air. This has been going on since those ordinance was eradicated because they wanted to use it to empower the black and brown community.
right.
But again, we elect individuals who speak on these issues, and then when they're elected, crickets.
Yeah, because it's all about being politically correct. They say you don't have enough political background to be running for office. I disagree because I think that the people who play politics are the people who do nothing once they get into office, and that's not what our communities need, especially the black and brown community. We don't need somebody to dress the part. We need somebody to be the part. And that's a big problem. And this is the reason why our communities are suffering the way that they are. First of all, because a lot of times black and brown people don't think that their votes matter at all, which is totally not true. And I feel like at this point, we've been so conditioned to think a certain way about ourselves and our living conditions that we don't think that we need to rise above anything. It's just the way things are supposed to be. I'm here to let everybody know this is not how we're supposed to live. We're not supposed to be in poverty. We're not supposed to be in lack. Those things should not be happening. I'd be happy to buy everybody that's on this live and then some a sweatshirt that says king or queen, because that's exactly what we are. And I feel like we need somebody who's in office who's going to protect our kingdom, because it's not happening.
Can I say something?
Mr. Thomas, can I put you on hold for 1 second?
Sure.
Jacob's had his hand up for a minute. Jacob, can you come off and mute? You have a question for Domingos? Or you have something to say? Yeah.
I was just going to follow up with the statement on, him being as transparent and accountable as he is.
Right.
I have a notion that the political atmosphere, when it comes to young millennials who are now being able to vote and who are voting, that's what they want. They want transparency and they want accountability. And it is, the city of Boston has sprinkled through these gatekeepers that keep these political doors closed, that will not accept someone as transparent and accountable as Domingos, and then come to the community and say, well, we can't do anything about any of these issues.
Right.
Has been providing all of these solutions and these things. So I think, we need more candidates to be transparent. We need more candidates to be like Domingos, to, have such a heart connected to the community that I'm going to tell you what it is to your face. I'm not going to tell you behind closed doors. We're not going to get super elaborate because we've been fighting these issues for 30, 40, 50, 60 years. And so the time for this diplomacy and this, calmness about these issues is over. We have people on Method Mile that are suffering day in and day out, which Domingos can attest to. And those issues can't just be, oh, well, we'll talk about it later. Oh, it's a cookie-cutter solution. No, we need bold, radical leaders to be here. And on the side note, I know this is not a normal conversation, but you guys are preaching truth. So I'm over here having my own little...
It's like having church.
Yeah.
We should have signs on this Zoom that says preach every time, just, I have to say this to you, Domingos. You are pretty involved in the community and you don't mind sharing how you feel at any given time. I think that's the thing that I admire most about you. What I do know about you as a leader, because see, at some point in time, you have to follow in order to become an effective leader. A lot of people say, oh, I'm not a follower. If you're not following somebody and you're trying to lead, it's like the blind leading the blind because you're not a leader until you follow first. You have to look up to somebody. You have to see the generations that were before you in order to be effective. And to your job is to service the community. I think a lot of times when people play politics, it's about their own agenda. And so I have Stacey K. Borden on the live that is saying, that the politicians want to line their pockets. That is a big thing. It's not, Domingos, I've seen you honestly come out of your pocket to help people in need. Again, a lot of times the Black and brown community doesn't know who actually is running for any seat, mayor, governor, and sometimes even president until they get to the polls and they see a list of names. That does nothing for us.
Right.
It does nothing for us because we're not being true to ourselves and saying, who are these people really? And now at the last minute, you have to vote for them. I want everyone to know that there's two people on this live besides Domingos that are running for Boston City Council. We have Leon Rivera and Jacob. Can you pronounce your last name, Jacob? I don't want to butcher it.
Ureña.
Okay. He's running for District 4. He's running for District 7. I invited them to this live because I want you guys to look at these three young men. I'll even put this old man in it. These three young men, and know that they're all running for a seat in some district, except for Domingos, who's running for Boston City at large. At the end of the day, look at these people and know who you could potentially be voting for and putting into office and giving them a seat and giving them access to your life, to your children, to your community. That's the reason why I have you guys on this platform, because I want people to ask you questions. And Domingos, I have a big question for you about prison reform, incarceration.
Oh man.
I say this all the time. This is part of the reason why I have a platform is because I'm formerly incarcerated, and I know how hard it is to come out of prison or jail and not have a place to go, not have food to eat. Your family's given up on you. The system has already failed you, or you've failed in some area of your life, and you're just trying to bring it all together. I've seen women leave South Bay and come back 24 hours later because they never left when they left out the front door. They're out there, they're getting high again, they're doing what they do because they don't have any other choice, or so they think. We feel like we don't have the options to do anything better. We have people who are actually, look, we were just talking about Sean Ellis. Sean Ellis is a prime example of how the system has failed us. Today, DA Rollins has decided to go against the Boston Police Department because she wants people to know that not on her watch. We need more people like that sitting in these seats who are going to say, I'd rather be morally right than to deal with corruption and lies and deceit and all of the things that don't make sense in the Black and brown community. We have them trying to build a prison in Roxbury. You can build another prison, but you can't build another school. You can cut programs in schools. You can cut staff that really are needed, counseling that's really needed. What do you plan to do? And how do you, this has been an issue before you decided to run for office, Domingos.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do to be able to put your arms around this and strangle it and take the life out of it? Because this is a big issue.
I'm gonna add a little bit of my personal life story, right? My father came to America in the early 70s. By the time 1981 came, he got into some serious trouble. I visited my dad with my family. We used to go down to Church's Chicken on Saturday mornings and get on the blue bus.
Right.
Right? And we used to get on that long ride upstate to go visit my dad. So, at the age of 4, I was in and out of the state prisons.
Right.
I wasn't the one staying behind, but I was in and out visiting my father.
Right.
So that changed my mentality on, how I wanted to live. I didn't want to hear those doors. Years later, visiting someone, and at Norfolk, I heard them doors close. It took me back to that 4 or 5-year-old, and the guard looks at me, and goes, "You okay?" It's like, man, it was a black guard. He was like, you okay? You been here before? I said,
Right.
I've been here not as an inmate, as a child visiting my father.
Right.
He looked at me. He was like, what do you mean? I said, yeah, some of us who come back to visit, we've been here as children.
Right.
And I want to change that. Not only for the children, but for the fathers and the mothers who come out of prison and don't have a place to start life over. Because there's no rehabilitation in prison. My dad was a cook. He had an opportunity to cook and earn money, pick up a trade, because it was there.
Right.
As the state cuts those fundings, our families lose those trades.
Right.
So when I met someone like T. Michael Thomas, who's like, yo, Mingos, I got this brilliant idea about bringing back trades in our community, for our community, he didn't have to say much, because I understood the value of giving that skill back to our men and women.
Right.
But it's not going to just change overnight, right?
Of course.
Because our education system is built for us to have a third grade level reading, graduating high school. I can't get into the trades if I don't have a 10th grade level education. I have to pass the 10th grade to be able to get into one or two of these trades. And I got to have a high school diploma for others.
Right.
So you have someone like T. Michaels who's gonna allow you to come into his space and learn a trade, and we're scratching that. We're not asking you about your Corey in certain aspects. There's certain things you got to screen out, and there's certain things that you're gonna allow because you want to rehabilitate people and give them an opportunity.
Right.
But it's not gonna happen with the individuals that we have in any office.
Right.
You know, we have a good sheriff who's trying to do a little more, but it's going to take more than just the sheriff. It's going to take, again, a DA like Rachel Rollins. It's going to take legislators like Russell Holmes and others who are trying to change the narrative. But we as a community have to get involved, so when we do have a Domingos or a Leon or a Jacob, we're able to come together financially, along with the votes, to put these individuals in places. So when we're in a setting and they ask us what's our opinion,
Right.
it kind of has a stamp to it, not a rubber stamp, but an actual stamp, because there's 20,000, 30,000 people behind that.
Right.
Who's gonna vote for the governor? Who's gonna vote for the AG? Who's gonna vote for the Secretary of State? Versus what we've been doing year in, year out.
Now, I have a question from Stacy Borden. She says, we need to know their ideologies. What do you stand for? What's your belief system? How much have you been impacted by injustices? And how do you handle accountability? Don't vote because someone looks good or talks a good talk. I agree with that. So can you answer the question, like, what do you stand for? What's your belief system? How much have you been impacted by injustices in your own personal life? And how do you handle accountability? So say if you make these promises, you get elected and you're sitting in that seat, do you want the community to hold you accountable for the things that you promised at the beginning in your campaign? Or do you want to just say, hey, listen, it is what it is. Now I'm already in office and now I have my own agenda?
Well, I always say accountability starts with us.
Of course.
So for me, accountability goes a long way. I mean, my parents held me accountable, you know, as young as 4 or 5 years old.
Right.
So I understand, you know, like my mom used to say to me, sorry, didn't do it. You did. You say it once, you say it twice, you can't say it the third time.
Right.
And for me, my morals, I'm a family man.
Yes.
I come from a deep-rooted family. My grandmother's 102 years old. I spend weekends with her. I make sure I go check in on her and bring her little. Now I'm giving her candy versus her giving me candy. My mom is 74 years old. I still take her trash out.
Right.
Because that's what a son's supposed to do for her mother, for his mother, right?
Right.
So my children are my world. The children around me are my world.
Right.
I feel that if I'm gonna build a community, I'm gonna build a community with the children around my children. I want to know my kids' friends.
Right.
So as they grow, we grow. I want to know their parents. I want to know my neighbors.
Right.
If my neighbor's son or daughter is sitting on the porch on a rainy day, I want to be able to, hey, let me call your mom and ask her if you can come in and watch a video. Because my neighbors did that for me.
Right.
My morals is what keeps me grounded. I'm a very grounded person.
Right.
You know, I don't live outside my means.
Right.
because I try to stay humble. I don't need the elegant lifestyle.
Right.
I need to be transparent, with tranquility, with love, because that's how I was raised.
Right.
I come from a family of 9. I have 9 siblings. I'm like the middle child.
Right.
And I've learned over the years, what one does affects all 9 of us.
True story. That's a community right there.
So I give it back.
Right.
You know, I ask for the same thing for my kids because that's what I was raised with.
Right.
But you know, once I got in office, it'd be the same person from 25 years ago.
Right.
When I started doing community work as a kid. I
Right.
started doing community work at DSN9 when they first came into the community. We had all empty lots. Okay, we had more clubhouses in Roxbury than houses because it was all empty lots from
Yeah.
the 70 white flight. For folks that don't know Boston, I know Boston,
Yes.
and I took that upon myself because I went in and out of the state prisons visiting my father.
Right.
I understood that wasn't a lifestyle for me.
Right.
I went to BPS and got passed on like a baton, and having an immigrant mom, she would get mistreated because she didn't understand the language, so I got mistreated and dragged through the mud. They didn't give us IEPs back then.
Right.
They stuck you in the lab cluster, put you in the basement, and wish you didn't come to school.
Right. Right.
And I want to be that person that brings that back, has that conversation. That's why I'm here tonight.
Right.
An uncomfortable conversation that people want to forget. I'm not going to forget my childhood because you know why? It was the best part of my life. Even
Right.
though I was poor, one TV, never knew it. I ate every day. I had a roof. I had clothes, and I had a loving family surrounding me. That's what we need back in Boston. We don't need outsiders coming in. A year ago, a gentrifier told me they were mad because they were being gentrified. I said, you know, I giggled like you did. But the reality is, she is right. We got all these promises and no action plan. This is what brought me to this table
Right.
to run for office
Right.
as a BCYF employee. I spent 23 years as a city employee giving services to my community. I've been in every single school building in my city because that's what I was doing as a city staff. I
Right.
sat on the union table and negotiated contracts for 1,500 employees and understood why one department gets more than the other, but then the direct service individuals always get the short end of the stick, but we're the ones giving them services.
Of course.
So for me, being able to become a city councilor, it's not just a title. It's for that kid standing on the corner of Dudley Street with no ambition and has no vision because they take it away from us in our school system. They don't tell us we come from kings and pharaohs. By the time I got to become a senior, my guidance counselor told me I had 2 options, military or prison
Wow.
at a trade school
Wow.
with 30 plus trades.
Domingos, there's someone that's on the panel right now. Sharon, can you take yourself off mute? She's had her hand up, and then Leon, you next. But Sharon, do you have a question for Domingos, or do you have a comment?
I have a comment for all these 3 brothers that are running for office. I am amazed. I am so happy. We keep asking the men to stand up, and these 3 men, Father Jacob, Domingos DaRosa, and Leon Rivera, are
Yes.
bringing the heat. And
Yes.
I love it. I love
Yes.
it, love it, love it. We keep asking for new blood, and they're bringing it, and they're actually supporting each other and working and helping each other in the community. They're on the ground, and they're doing what needs to happen. T. Michael Thomas with the People's Academy is doing it. Stacey Borden, that's my sis. That is my sister from another mister.
Yes,
She
she's
is
awesome.
doing the work.
I wish she would have joined us tonight because she has a lot to say too. I wish she's on the live, but I wish she would have chimed in. Yes, I agree.
Oh my God. And Andrea James, who's a big
Yes.
sister, both of us, who is seeking to free 100 women in the first 100 days of the President Joe Biden, who, let's face it, would not be in office without Black and brown people. Let's keep it real. Stacey Abrams, let's channel that spirit. So, you know, I know that these brothers are doing what needs to happen. I am double zooming. I was on here before and I had to drop out, and I'm not going to be able to stay because I'm actually testifying with the Boston School Committee. Domingos and I were at the budget meeting earlier, and so these brothers are on the ground. I appreciate you, sis, Queen, absolutely, for providing this platform, because, as you know, broadcast media doesn't want us to tell the truth because we're not selling commercials. We're not sitting up here making money. And these brothers putting their lives, their families out there, because it is a considerable commitment to
Yes.
put yourself out there, to have people just look for that pound of flesh because they'll find faults. These are men that are human. And so rather than sitting there, and I know, you know, what people do, they sit there and they make excuses about why they're not registered to vote, why they don't vote.
Yes.
Time is off for that. There's
Yes.
stuff that's happening now with this budget. There was
Yes.
a budget hearing about the school committee earlier. There is now decisions. Brother Kamani James, the young brother who's 17,
Yep.
who stepped away and resigned as the Boston School Committee rep, and also the BSAC, Boston Student Advisory Committee leader, stepped away from that. He just had a testimony that was fire.
Right.
I mean, it was calling people to account. And a lot of times we're asking people to have those difficult conversations, but when
Yes.
those people bring difficult conversations, we can't handle it. Just like the movie said, you can't handle the truth. You want the truth, but you can't handle the truth.
Absolutely, absolutely, Sharon. I am on board with everything that you're saying. Let me be as transparent as I can. My platform is for anybody who has something to say about the people who don't want to talk about it. I believe that a lot of times, especially in the Black and Brown community, we're faced with a lot of challenges as it is just in the world. But within our community, we're stuck because we're still listening to the past tense of, well, your vote doesn't matter. You don't count. You should still be in poverty. You stay over there in the corner. It's time for us to come out of the corner. And if we're going to vote for somebody, let's know the people that are potential candidates for us to vote for. I don't want this to be a last minute thing where our people are showing up at the polls and they don't know anybody but maybe Domingos DaRosa, because he has a big mouth. That's what I love about him. He doesn't even need a bullhorn. He's going to say what he has to say. And if you don't like it, that is okay, because he's not playing politics. He's compassionate and passionate about the community that he lives in. And there is nothing wrong with that. We need to stop being afraid to show who we are as a culture, as a community. And if we're going to vote for somebody, let's vote for somebody because we know that they can get the job done. Not because their name sounds Black, because we've seen them one time, because maybe they did something nice for our community one time and then that was it. We can't take our knees off the backs of people who came before them who only wanted to play politics. It's time for us to show up and show out. I'm tired of seeing the same, like the Charlie Bakers. I don't care. He's not somebody that I would invite to my platform because, again, everyone wants to play politics. I don't want to play with you. I'm a formerly incarcerated woman who has spent a lot of time on the inside. It's just as corrupt on the inside as it is on the outside. And there's a lot of people sitting in prisons that don't need to be sitting in there. Build more programs, build more housing, do something different, because what you're doing right